Okay, let's get into this. We talk a lot about thought leadership. I mean, it's this absolute non-negotiable need for visibility if you want to succeed.
Right. Influence authority.
Exactly. But for the actual experts, the big irony is the just the insane amount of time it takes to do it. You know, the recording, editing, publishing, all of it.
It's a huge drag. And it's not just a hurdle, it's a wall. It basically excludes the very people who should be setting the agenda.
The CEOs, the founders, the experts.
Yeah, the people who just do not have the hours in the day to sit in the studio or learn how to edit video.
Yeah.
Their time is just too valuable for that.
You're trading a $10,000 hour activity for a $15 an hour one. And that brings us right to our source material for you today. It's a detailed explainer for a service called Executive Edge.
From Omni AI Systems and Consulting.
And they claim this is where that wall, that friction just completely melts away.
So our mission here is to go beyond the marketing language and really unpack the mechanics. We want to look at how you can use AI to build this comprehensive, totally hands-off content engine.
And we're focusing on two big questions for you.
Two really foundational questions. First, why is this specific hands-off approach happening right now? What's changed? And second, and this is maybe the most important part, how does it tackle that huge issue of content ownership and control?
That's the key. The whole renting versus owning idea. That's the real value, isn't it?
It is.
So let's start there with the why now. Who is a service like this actually for?
Well, the target audience they list is, it's really interesting, they define leaders by their lack of time, by the cost of their expertise.
Okay, so who specifically?
They list founders and CEOs who need that constant thought leadership presence. Authors trying to build an audience for their next book.
Right.
Nonprofit leaders who need visibility for fundraising, pastors, ministers who want a global reach. Really any professional building a serious long-term brand.
So the common thread isn't a lack of ideas. They're idea-rich.
They're idea-rich and time-poor, completely. And the whole executive edge argument is built on taking away the pain points that cause burnout.
No studio, no scheduling.
Zero burnout. The promise is that it takes almost none of the client's time, but it produces expert-level content in their own voice, their specific tone.
That sounds like the dream for anyone who's tried to manage a recording schedule. But let's be real here. We've heard promises like this before. What makes it viable now?
It comes down to one big technological shift.
Voice cloning.
Sophisticated, high-fidelity voice cloning. It's not just a robot reading text. It's capturing and replicating their unique vocal DNA. You know, the tone, the cadence, the pauses.
With, as they say, stunning accuracy.
That's the only way a system like this is truly scalable. You get the personal connection of the leader without them having to physically be there every week.
Okay, but this is where I have to push back a little, because the source makes an incredible claim about the time needed. They say the client records just 2 minutes of audio.
2 minutes, that's it.
2 minutes. Anyone who's worked in this space knows that voice modeling used to take hours of studio recording to get those nuances. Does the source mention any caveats? What about accents or background noise?
That's the critical question, and the material is surprisingly confident about it. It implies their AI models are now so sophisticated that the input quality is less of a barrier.
So the model can clean it up.
It seems so. The claim is that their process smooths out those imperfections. And for their target audience, that 2-minute requirement is everything. It's the difference between a yes and a no. The barrier to entry is basically zero.
That tech leap completely changes the ROI calculation. If your only time investment is 2 minutes, suddenly the cost of the service seems tiny compared to hiring a team or building a studio.
It shifts the question from, can I afford to do this, to, can I afford not to do this?
Right. So let's get into the mechanics. The engine itself, we have the 2 minutes of audio. What's next?
So once they have that voice recording and some kind of input for the first episode, could be meeting notes, a bulleted list, an old article, the process is incredibly fast.
How fast?
They guarantee a full launch within 7 to 10 business days.
7 to 10 days. To go from a voice memo to a fully branded, globally distributed show, that's disruptive.
Absolutely. The traditional timeline for a podcast launch is, 6 weeks minimum?
Yeah.
Often more like 6 months. This turns content creation from a big project into an instant utility.
And it's a comprehensive setup. They're not just giving you an MP3 file. They do the artwork, the branding, the distribution to 15, 20 platforms.
Spotify, Apple, Amazon,
Yeah.
all the major players. They're building an entire digital footprint for you instantly.
Because just having a podcast isn't enough anymore.
Exactly. The infrastructure needs to be there from day one. And that leads us to the weekly deliverables, what they call the thought leadership content engine.
This is where the automation really shows its power.
It's a total saturation strategy. Every single week, you get first one new 5 to 7 minute podcast episode in that cloned voice. That's the core asset.
Okay, the anchor, and then they leverage that audio for search and credibility, right?
Precisely. The transcript is immediately turned into one SEO-optimized blog article. And for anyone listening, SEO-optimized just means it's built to rank on Google and establish you as the authority on that topic.
So it turns a fleeting conversation into a permanent piece of intellectual property that attracts traffic on its own.
Exactly. But they don't stop there. They also create a dedicated YouTube podcast video.
Which is critical because YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world.
It's where you have to be for long-term authority. And they create a professional branded video for you automatically.
And then comes the part that usually kills everyone. Social media, the short form stuff.
Right, the high-velocity clips. Yeah. They deliver 3 to 5 short social videos, all captioned, branded, and edited for high retention on platforms like TikTok or LinkedIn.
Ready to just post?
Ready to post. For anyone who's tried to manage even a few social accounts, that alone saves dozens of hours a month. The labor just vanishes.
So a single input, maybe a few bullet points from the leader, becomes what a PR firm would call a full saturation campaign. But it's all handled by code.
And, critically, it all flows into assets that you control. They build and manage a personal blog for you and run your YouTube channel.
Which brings us right back to that central theme for our listeners. Owning your digital assets, not just building your career on rented land.
That's the big intellectual shift here. When you post a great video on Instagram, you're building their platform. You are completely at the mercy of their algorithm.
You have no control. You could reach millions one day and zero the next because they changed the code.
This whole service is designed to address that instability. They use the social clips for that immediate rented reach. But the core assets, the long-term stuff, are fixed. They're owned.
The podcast library, the blog articles, the YouTube videos, that's the legacy.
That's the legacy. The source calls it a legacy library. It's a searchable archive of your expertise that builds credibility over time. It's an asset tied directly to your name.
It's a credibility fortress. So when someone is vetting you, they don't just find a random social post. They find a deep, organized library that proves you're the authority.
It's the difference between having a busy storefront in a mall that the owner can shut down versus owning the factory that makes the goods.
Okay, but now we have to address the elephant in the room. I know anyone listening who values their brand is thinking about this. Security. Ownership of that voice. Who actually owns it?
This is the single biggest risk for any high-profile client, and the FAQ tackles it head-on. The answer has to be that the leader maintains absolute control.
And does it?
Yes. The source is explicit. The client remains the sole owner of their voice and all the intellectual property generated from their ideas.
So Omni AI doesn't retain any rights to the voice model?
None. The voice data is encrypted, stored privately, and they state it is never shared or sold. They use strict access controls, so only the production team can use the model, and only for authorized projects.
That's the commitment that makes this viable for someone whose voice is their brand.
And that control is permanent. The FAQ confirms the voice model is permanently deleted if you cancel the service or ask for it to be removed.
So there's no lingering ownership by the company?
Not at all. The technology is presented as a disposable tool, but the IP, the ideas, the expertise, the voice, that all remains with the client.
That's a powerful guarantee. Your voice stays your voice, always.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It's the new reality. If you want high-value leaders to use generative AI, you have to guarantee them full control. The risk is just too high otherwise.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's summarize the core takeaway here. This service is positioning itself as the fastest way to build a world-class presence in your industry, completely hands-off.
It really boils down to that tagline. Yeah. All the credit, none of the work. The only things required are the leader's voice for just 2 minutes and their ideas. The entire labor-intensive part is just gone.
It lets the expert focus only on being an expert.
And that brings us to the final thought for you to consider. The source uses that other tagline, your message, your expertise, your tone, zero recording required. We need to think about the implications.
Okay.
The copyright date on this document is 2025. This isn't some far-off concept. This is being sold as a standard business tool right now.
It's changing what professional communication even means.
It is. If the entire process of creation and distribution is automated, what does the expert's role even become? If success is no longer tied to how much time you spend producing, but purely on the quality of your ideas, how does that change things?
The competition shifts.
It shifts entirely. Will the future of expertise be defined less by performance and production and more by pure idea generation and curation? Just deciding which insights are valuable enough to feed into the engine. That shift, that focus on pure ideation, free from all the labor, that's the future that AI is accelerating us toward right now.